Hello and welcome back to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I'm the director of the Cyber Education Research Center here at Murray State University. And welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Sprocket, West Kentucky, and KY Innovation. And welcome back to episode 259 of 10 at 10. It is our last episode before 2026. Last time we talked about looking forward to 2026. Actually, I'm going to go a different direction today, and I want to look back at 2025. So we are on holiday break at Murray State, and we're in that weird time between Christmas and New Year's, and and I always like to reflect back on the year. We've talked a little bit about this earlier in the month. We talked about this in past years. So if you've watched for many of the episodes, you've heard me talk about that reflection time. And I came across a article from the World Economic Forum on what, in their mind, the top five stories were for kind of the must-read cybersecurity stories of 2025. And I thought I would start or end the year by looking at that. And so the first story that they talked about is AI is the new oil, and the phishing epidemic, and kind of how all that relates together. And first of all, I mean, you've got to live under a rock to realize that AI is not the new oil. Every technology company, from an economic development standpoint, we're all talking about AI. What can we do to grab the next AI data center? How can AI support our workforce? Is it going to take my job? There's a lot of unknowns with AI right now. But what is also true about AI is that the bad guys are trying to figure out how to use AI to improve their attacks and to improve their methods. And one of the ways that they're doing that, frankly, is with phishing. Phishing attacks. This is in a report from the World Economic Forum earlier in the year that that phishing attacks had surged 1,200%, and largely because AI can craft hyper realistic, personalized phishing lures. Those messages that look so real. So that is one of those ways that AI is being used, and we've got to realize that. Another one, and I think this is really important too. This is a weird way to think about it, but one of the things that they talk about in cybersecurity is that you can't have 100% secure network. 100% security is impossible. It is impossible for the military. It is impossible for the CIA. It's impossible for any major intelligence organization. It's certainly going to be impossible for you and me and for our organizations. Doesn't mean that we don't do anything about security. It doesn't mean for the last 259 episodes I've been screaming in the wind. What it does mean, and this is very important, is that we need to shift our mind, and we saw this over 2025, is trying to shift from a completely security framework to a cyber resilience framework, meaning let's try to stop the attack, but if we can't stop it altogether, let's withstand the attack, let's recover from the attack, and let's adapt to stop new attacks. Does that make sense? There are so many organizations that are going to experience a cyber attack. We are all going to experience some sort of cyber incident at some point. What is really important is how we respond and how we grow our organization from that point. I think that's really important. And frankly, and the last thing I'll say on this, because I'm going to talk too long about this topic, is that cyber resilience isn't a product that you're going to go pick off the shelf and install and, oh, we're all good. It's really an organizational culture. It's how do we look at both sides of boom? There's a right of boom, a left of boom. Boom's when that incident happens. How do we look at that whole spectrum and think about how do we try to prevent it? But if we can't prevent it, how do we stop it? And how do we recover from it? And those are all very important pieces, and learn from it, frankly. This is a weird one that you may not think about, but in 2025, conversations continued to grow and really expand about securing the final frontier. And for the Star Trek reference, or folks in the audience, you may have caught the reference. And yes, it is, how do we secure space? Okay, maybe we don't need to secure Mars right now, but there are a lot of satellites in space. When we talk about our electric grid, or we talk about our water supply and how do we secure those programmable logic controllers, the reason that we talk about those, that OT security piece, is because when that was designed, it wasn't designed with security in mind. A lot of our satellites, a lot of our complex technical systems that are in space weren't really secure or built with security in mind. So that's another piece that we really have to secure. We really have to think about, um, what are we doing from that. GPS, for example. GPS is critical. It's critical for these devices to work. It's critical for our navigation to work. Our position, navigation, and timing are the things that we receive from GPS that most people don't necessarily realize. Timing is an important piece that we get from GPS that folks don't realize. It's really important. Starlink and these other low Earth orbit, LEO is what it's called. Satellite systems are providing broadband and internet access to thousands of people, maybe millions of people. Um, that's not underground. That's not on a pole down the street. It's in space. So the security of those satellites, the security of what's happening in space, has a direct impact on what we're doing on the ground as well. Number 4, the human piece, the human component, the human factor, the human firewall. People are still going to be key. We can have the greatest security system in the world, but we're still going to struggle because of our people. And let me talk about this from a couple of different perspectives. Now, the article is talking about this a lot on the talent gap in cybersecurity. And it's not just about filling seats. 2025 saw a shift to diversifying skills as well. But what 14% of organizations said, only 14% of organizations said they have the right cybersecurity talent right now. The skill gap has grown. What those skills need to be are important, and we need to find that. And so that's an important piece. But I will also say that it's also important to think about how do we prepare our workforce that we have to be better advocates and supporters of our cybersecurity posture. And let me add that also in this cybersecurity space, there is a need for better pathways for underrepresented groups, including women. If we're going to build the right resilience and look at things in a different way, then we need different types of people. And we need groups that are underrepresented so that we can approach problems with different lenses and with different perspectives. I think that's really important and not something that we talk about enough. And then finally, the last thing is kind of almost an outlook and a preview of what we're going to talk about next month. But in the beginning of 2025, there was some reports that came out and said we have a complex road ahead. And that has been very true with the change in administrations, with different things that are going on in the world. It's complex. There are regulatory requirements. There are things that we have to do that we hadn't thought about before. We're in a complex time in cybersecurity. We're in a complex time in our world, but cybersecurity as well. 71% of cyber leaders this past year believe that small organizations have already reached a critical tipping point where they can no longer adequately secure themselves against the growing complexity of cyber risk. The reality is we're in a tough spot. 2026 is going to make that even harder. And we'll talk more about that next week. What's going to be coming up in 2026? All right. Well, as with our last episode of the year, I want to say thank you for those that have listened and hung with us. I know the numbers of live views aren't as high because we're all busy, and at 10 o'clock on a Friday, we're all working. And for those that go back and watch, I appreciate it. Those that ask me questions about it or give me feedback, I certainly appreciate it, and I definitely value that feedback. And what I'll say as we're getting ready to celebrate our Happy New Year is just that, Happy New Year, and I'll see you back next week on 10 at 10. Thank you. Bye.